Hello friends, welcome to AI Flux. Stability AI finally released an update to Stable Diffusion XL. They're calling it version 0.9 and it's kind of incredible. So if you've been following Ahmad or Stability AI on Twitter, you've noticed that Ahmad's been teasing a lot of this model over the past few weeks. The biggest one has been this sort of industrial area with a huge cloud of colored smoke, but clearly Stability AI is working on really big things. What I will say is initially when I saw these, I thought these were mostly coming from deepfloyd because of how good certain textures were and predominantly how some of these had a lot of text in them. There were also some that appeared to have a large contextual preference that seemed to favor deepfloyd over Stable Diffusion. Weirdly, Stable Diffusion prior struggled with certain context and certain things that could make some images harder to generate. Specifically, this morning, I was more so looking forward to deepfloyd updates because the text here is good and really the biggest breakthrough with deepfloyd was text. But today we're talking about Stable Diffusion XL. So I really like how Stability AI does announcements. As an organization, they've become really product focused. And I think it's helped them really sharpen why they're making new models, how they're tuning new models, and it's also sort of changed their approach to safety. They talk about safety way less, unlike OpenAI, and talk way more about forward use cases of their systems. So specifically in this case, the new version of Stable Diffusion XL is available today in Clipdrop, which is kind of the Midjourney interface-esque product that Stability AI has now. And they're really pushing it. So if you want to use this, go make an account there. You can use it today. The API is coming soon, and I'm sure eventually we'll be able to get to, as they say here, a open source release in mid-July, that's where the safety aspect of this is coming in. They say, despite its ability to be run on modern consumer GPUs, Stable Diffusion XL 0.9 presents a leap in creative use cases for generative AI imagery. The ability to generate hyper-realistic creations for films, these applications, as well as offering advancements for design and industrial use places SDXL at the forefront of real-world applications for AI imagery. And they're pushing it really hard, especially with Clipdrop. And I think also Clipdrop is really one of the most well-executed product deployments of generative AI for now, at least in a real kind of e-commerce and a number of other use cases. They're actually mostly comparing SDXL beta to their release today. And the progress is actually pretty impressive. So again, the left is beta, the right is the announcement today. The biggest things I've been able to pull out of this are improvements in depth of field and color gamut. And color gamut along with just how much color the model is comfortable expressing in any given generation. So another thing that I think is cool is clearly they've trained this on some inputs from Fallout New Vegas because this tower here is nearly identical to how the tower looks like in New Vegas. Clearly more context awareness of faces and organic shapes, similar to hands. So hands have also been vastly improved. Also curiously, as a sort of a side effect of this, text in Stable Diffusion XL is also much better. Here on the left, you can see this fox's face is kind of mangled. And on the right, this is nearing photorealism, which previously was something that only Midjourney was getting close or was capable of doing. This is a more minor comparison. So we have a coffee here. And what I think is telling, again, is depth of field, a general contextual notion of subject, and also understanding environmentally what looks a bit more normal. The palm trees here are still a little wild, but again, the right image is definitely more convincing. If you showed me the left image 4 months ago, I would have still been blown away. And what's curious to me is a lot of the big improvements seem to be tied to prompts that include this aesthetic tag, and we'll get into kind of why that is going forward. So there are a number of improvements that have happened here. Obviously, Stable Diffusion XL is a different model than Stable Diffusion 2.1 or prior implementations of Stable Diffusion. They kind of describe this at Stability AI as SDXL series also offers a range of functionalities that extend beyond basic text prompting. These include image-to-image prompting, inputting one image to get variations of that image in painting, and outpainting. So kind of cool. Again, if you're aware of Clipdrop, this is no surprise. So what's under the hood? So the key driving advancements in composition for SDXL 0.9 is again, kind of unsurprising, just a very big increase in parameter count. So the sum of all weights and biases in the neural network that the model's trained on when compared to the beta version or prior versions of Stable Diffusion. So SDXL9 has one of the largest parameter counts of any open source image model, boasting 3.5 billion parameters in the base model, of 6.6 billion parameters in the ensemble pipeline, and it says the final output is created by running on 2 models and aggregating the results. So that's kind of interesting. That's something we actually haven't really seen before. A little bit of that kind of happens with ControlNet, but that's cool. And it's interesting. So the second stage model of the pipeline is used to add finer details to the generated output of the first stage. And what is interesting is that is really how deepfloyd works. So I wonder if they've borrowed a few bits of deepfloyd to wrap into Stable Diffusion XL. Interesting. Another really cool thing is SDXL 0.9 runs on 2 specific clip models. So one is kind of a more general, it's the largest OpenClip models trained to date. This is OpenClip VITG 14. So this beefs up 0.9's processing power and the ability to create realistic imagery with greater depth and higher resolution. And those are the 2. Big draw of Stable Diffusion XL initially was you were able to get bigger generations and more consistent upscaling out of the box. And some would say more detail, but of course, greater resolution and larger images entail greater detail. So that's kind of what's going on here. What I think is kind of cool is they do get into a little bit of AMD stuff. So they say Linux users are also able to use compatible AMD cards with 16 gigs of VRAM. I doubt you'll be able to use any of the 8-bit model weights with this. So there likely will still be drawbacks to doing that. And they say despite its powerful output and advanced model architecture, SDXL 0.9 will be able to run on modern consumer GPUs needing Windows 10 or 11 or Linux with 16 gigs on NVIDIA. They're recommending anything above an RTX 20 graphics card. And if you're curious about graphics cards, we've had a bit of a focus with that on our channel, and I honestly think that the 4060 is maybe the next best low-end card to aim for this. But obviously that's a bit of a contentious opinion, so look out for a video on that soon. They were also very big about training this in beta, more so than they were with deepfloyd. So I actually played around with this a bit. The Discord is cool. I'm glad that the interface isn't Discord because Clipdrop is actually just snappier, but it was cool, to give people kind of an idea of what was going on. It's very low effort for devs to deploy that way. And I think it's cool that Stability AI is really finding a nearly, not a perfect, but as good a balance of open source and being open and granting early access to what they're working on, and also still having very acceptable models relative to a lot of other AI companies. So I fully support them with that. And again here, so it's again curious that Clipdrop is separate from Dream Studio, just to be clear. But yeah, it's available on Clipdrop. It'll soon be available with the API for Stability AI and Dream Studio. And soon enough, probably mid-July, we can expect the model weights to be released, so you can run this locally with Automatic 1111. So tell me what you think. I've shown you some outputs here. Do some of you want to run this locally? Are some of you a little disappointed that relative to deepfloyd, maybe it's not as good as you wanted? Or are you just sticking with Midjourney because it's too much work to do all of this? Let me know in the comments. If you like our content, please like and subscribe. And as always, we'll see you in the next video.